Welcome, subscribers. We are talking to Alan Watt from cuttingthroughthematrix.com, and we are continuing our conversations from our first hour. And we are going to change gears a bit and spend some time now talking about the moon program and the moon landings, of course. I've been curious to get Alan's take on this for quite some time now. There's quite a lot of research out there talking about that the 1969 and onwards moon landings actually was fake, or that it was shot in a studio, or possibly that what we saw wasn't the real deal, but we actually went to the moon and discovered something up there completely different, or whatever. There's a huge amount of information out there about this issue, and it seems very difficult to discern and dissect it, or actually get the truth, as it were, about this issue. And when we have Alan online here, it would be wonderful to kind of get your take on it all, because there, as I said, there's a lot of info out there on it. Is this anything that you have researched at all, Alan?
Yes, apart from remembering it, I was really young, really small, but I was fascinated by the whole build-up to it.
Yeah.
And I think in Britain they had Sir Patrick Moore, that was the astronomer royal, the title they gave him, and he did most of the talking and the hype on television to get us all excited about it coming up. So I studied into it. I went to the library and got everything out on the moon, and they were talking about the gravity being 1/6 of the Earth, for instance, and that once they were on the moon, if they tried to jump, they'd jump 12, 15, maybe 20 feet high just with a little hop. And all of this kind of stuff, and I was really looking forward to it. And then when the thing happened, I watched it, and these guys were just sort of hopping along a few inches off the ground,
sure,
as though it was in slow motion. And even the dust I noticed, which should have been kicked up in front of them, should have traveled maybe 20 meters or so. And it didn't. It fell in front of them as it would on Earth. And to kick it in, when they stuck the flag in, the flag waved in a breeze.
There you go, yeah.
And there's no wind on the moon. There's no atmosphere, you see.
Yeah.
So I was so disappointed with this that I brought it up in school the next day. And the teacher was so excited, and she asked me what I thought. And of course I said, well, I noticed that they didn't hop the way I thought they'd go, going up 20 meters or with a little leap.
Sure.
And I told her about that the sand wasn't getting kicked far enough, and I said, there's no wind on the moon to blow a flag. And she just went into a robotic click mode. It clicked back and forth there, because what I was saying was suddenly making sense to her, and yet the indoctrination that everyone had was competing with it. And she said she'd see me after class. And of course we had a discussion after class, and I got her thinking, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, it made no sense.
Yeah.
What I do know, too, in history is that the biggest scams that are pulled off worldwide happen to be accepted by the populations, because the average person, individual in that population, could never believe that anyone would try to bring off such a big lie as the one they have.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't do it.
No, wouldn't.
We understand little lies. We can catch on to little lies.
Yeah.
But when it's a huge one, performed with drama as an actuality, it's inconceivable to the public that anyone would dare do this.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why it works. And so a few years later on, a man in the U.S. called Rene, R-E-N-E, wrote a book called How NASA Mooned America. And he comes up with a lot of details and facts in it, with that one and the later landings. And he even went through all the officially released plans of the moon rover, the vehicle that they brought out, and showed how it could never have come out of the orifice that was made in the actual capsule.
Yeah.
Which was, so he had all these facts there. And what was also interesting, with some of the still shots, when you panned back, you would see little numbers on some of the rocks. Now, in a Hollywood studio, every item you see in any scene is actually numbered.
Mm.
And they turn the number away from the camera generally.
Mm.
Even for a vase for flowers or anything like that that's in a particular set, they have numbers on them. And so you saw numbers on some of the rocks.
But this is very, very sloppy. What's that all
Very
about?
sloppy.
Yeah. I mean, one would suspect that they would be very meticulous in the way they actually go about doing this. But who knows? There might have been actually on a very tight schedule or in a rush or something, because to be able to get these broadcasts out, in conjunction with the actual, lift up itself. I mean, there has to be some kind of, let's say that it was filmed in a studio. We should mention that first. Then there might be a tremendous, difficulty in getting these events to actually sync up. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
That's right. You see, if they'd brought in the whole thing with NASA, and people should study the history of NASA and what's behind NASA, what its real purpose was. It's not to get us all excited about traveling in space.
Mm.
NASA is part of the military complex. Always was.
Yeah.
And its real job is to go up there, put up satellites that will eventually monitor all of us.
Mm.
And the space shuttles are up there servicing them, all this high-tech weaponry and communications devices which will monitor us when we get little brain chips. And NASA is a Hebrew word for the head of the Sanhedrin.
Oh, really?
NASA, yeah.
NASA.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sometimes they'll spell it Nasi, which is coincidental too, because Nasi is also another pronunciation of the same word.
Yeah. Mm.
But and again too, when you look at who were brought in to create the NASA, it was primarily the German scientists who were brought in under Operation Paperclip.
Yep.
At World War II. They brought in all the top scientists to continue the program for missiles in the United States. So
yeah,
it's no coincidence. Even the words they use are no coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. We have obviously, NSA. We could connect with this also, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they also, the NSA is absolutely the same thing. That's right. NSA is the same thing, and they love these little clues they drop to the public. The particular place they blast off from now used to be called Cape Canaveral. That was Cape Kennedy.
Yeah.
Well, Cana, you see, is a priest. Can.
Yeah.
Priest.
Yeah. And
virile is the symbol of the virile obelisk. That's what it stands for.
Ah. Well,
nothing is a coincidence.
Well, that's very interesting, because this is something that I've been pondering on for very long, and that is why the heck do they use a rocket standing up in the position that it does from start and lift off and basically, the tremendous amount of basically, poison going out in that rocket fuel and so forth, but the thrust is incredible. I mean, there must be some kind of technological, better way to solve this, but as you say, that there is a connection here with the obelisk actually standing up, I guess.
Yes, it is. You see, the obelisk in Egyptian is, especially the red granite type, is called a Ben.
Yeah.
And the Ben, that's why you have Big Ben, which is the big clock tower on the Parliament in Britain.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Big Ben. It's an obelisk.
Indeed.
It symbolizes with the clock the time of the plan. And so they love these little giveaways there. Now, rock is the ancient source of all religions. On this rock I build my church. It was used long before that.
Sure.
You have Rockefeller.
Yeah.
You have all these terms. They have the Masonic rock, or their little temple, their little altar they go around in the lodge. And then you have Rocket, which is E.T. has two meanings for the public. For the Christians, E.T. is extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
And for the Christians, it's end times. For the New Agers, it's extraterrestrial.
Ah.
You see.
Oh, that's beautiful. Rocket. I never thought about
right.
that. Yeah.
And so you have a rocket right next to an obelisk, and they're both standing up the same way.
Oh, there you go. And the Benban stone is the primordial mound, basically, I guess, you know.
Yeah, it's the phallus rising of the evolved illuminated man. Yeah.
So this is I mean, Richard Hoagland, a lot of other people have studied, you know, the actual shooting up of these rockets, and that actually shows, you know, often, you know, solstice dates and vernal equinoxes, a lot of, you know, connected to very precise timing when they actually shoot these things up and so forth. Have you come across this too?
Oh yes, they do this mainly for a show for themselves, because they love to laugh at the public. It's not because they need some kind of magic. It's even that type of rocket, as you say, it's really obsolete.
Yeah, indeed.
It's old technology, but that's what the public are supposed to think is all they have. When we think that's all they have, it makes the weaponry that they really have so far ahead it will scare us to death when we see them.
There you go.
I know. I mean, I've got old documentation here from the testing bases in the U.S. when they were testing flying saucers, and it was in newspapers at the time, years ago, in the desert sands.
Yeah.
And the problem then, they were atomic powered. They made no noise, and the problem then is they couldn't go too far before they crashed. And in one of the reports I have from a newspaper, the reporter witnessed some of them crashing, and saw the teams going out to collect them and bring them back for repair. So they're way ahead now on all of this technology. The Area 51 has very advanced craft. There's 3 levels of science on the go at all times. For the bulk of the populace, from professor down, that's the lowest level of any science.
Very interesting. Yeah, but I just want to return to. Do you remember just about or where about, you know, the time when these when the newspaper report was 50s, 60s, 70s?
It was the 60s.
60s. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because again, there's a lot of, as it were, downed craft for some reason. Do you know why they actually why they couldn't make it that far? Some reason?
They had different methods of using the atomic energy, and one was to superheat water, basically, that was ejected at such incredible velocity through very tiny nozzles. That was one method, but then they're trying other liquids too. And they're also trying different things with photons to try to shoot photons out to propel themselves. So there's all different kinds on the go at the same time.
Yeah. You know, one thing that comes to mind is the studio, potential studio of itself. If we're to return to talking about the moon landings, there was a CBS network. This was a CBS network shot from the moon, allegedly, that we saw. And I've heard about a place called I think it's called Desilu Studios or Desilu Productions. That it actually is in LA, and among other things, Star Trek was filmed there. And this is potentially one of the places where they actually might have filmed the moon landings. Any ideas about that?
Yes, there's in fact, I still have the old newspaper article